How did you find out about the Seventh Adventist, really?
Well, once Tchaikovsky was away, and among his papers, we found a little booklet from the Review Herald. And it was a great discovery because my cousin Albert was so happy that he actually wrote to the address in Battle Creek to say we were Sabbath believers too.
Amazing. Well, Tchaikovsky has certainly proved to be a noble-hearted man. And you know what? God used him to plant the truth in Switzerland. You know, we must take advantage of this opportunity and maybe send a worker there. What do you think?
This is my prayer too, Elder. This is why we sent Brother Erzberger to America last year, to study the whole message.
You know, Brother Erzberger, again, a wonderful ambassador for Switzerland. And you know, I remember after he spoke at a camp meeting in Ohio last summer, the whole congregation took up an offering to support the work in Europe. And you know what? He returned as an ordained minister to labor amongst the Swiss brothers.
Indeed, and that was wonderful. But Brother Erzberger is German-speaking Swiss, whereas most of my brethren are French-speaking, like moi. It is my plan also to return to Switzerland and share the gospel with everyone.
That's wonderful. By the way, I don't believe you've met my my wonderful family, my dear wife.
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, Sister Andrews.
And my two children, Mary and Charles.
Oh, what a wonderful family you are.
Brother Vladimir, we have been looking forward for your arrival here in America. It must have been a long journey and quite costly too.
Indeed it was. That is true, Sister Andrews. It was very long, but most of all, it was quite expensive. And as you might imagine, the believers in Switzerland are quite poor and suffering much hardship because of their faith.
But how is that?
Well, many of them have lost their jobs because of their desire to preserve, to keep the Sabbath.
Right. Oh, I wish we could help them somehow.
What type of work do they do? Are they employed in larger factories?
Oh, no. Most of them work in very small industries, yes. There are no big factories in Switzerland. Several of our believers, including my cousin Albert, are watchmakers, but they cannot sell their watches anymore because the people will have nothing to do with them.
Maybe they only can sell them here in America.
Hang on, wait a minute. Angeline, this may be something that we can do to assist our brothers in Switzerland. Why couldn't we be the importing and selling agents for their watches? So they could send their watches to us, we could easily market them to the store, and send the money back to them. What do you think?
This is a wonderful idea, Elder Andrews.
Yeah, well, we'll do it then. You know, and more importantly, we will persuade the brethren to send a missionary to Europe. You know, the light of the third angel's message must be preached to all of those countries. You know, there's got to be someone who would be willing to go.
Could we go to Switzerland, Father?
Maybe we will someday, Mary. Maybe we will.
The death of two of his children in infancy, and the recent loss of his wife, Angeline. Andrews and his two surviving children faced a difficult assignment without the presence of the wife and the mother. But he is enthusiastic about the call, and arrangements are made for them to sail to Europe within 4 weeks.
We're having quite a good camp meeting, really. I have not seen so many Sabbath keepers at one time. I think on the Sabbath we had 1,310.
This has been a in more than one way. I believe our decision to send Elder Andrews to Switzerland will go down in records as a landmark on onward progress for this message.
Amen, Brother Smith. It's an action that we should have taken 10 years ago.
10 years ago? Why did you say so, Brother White?
Well, Brother Butler, it was exactly 10 years ago in 1864 when Brother Tchaikovsky asked us to send him as our missionary to Europe. Mind you, we were wise in turning down that request at that time.
In those days, as I recall, some of us were not all that certain that the Gospel Commission really meant sending missionaries into the world. We did not think that time would last that long to attempt that.
I remember an editorial that you wrote, Brother Smith. Was it on the review? Brother Smith, you put forward the idea that perhaps Christ's command for preaching to different people of different times was had to be fulfilled here in North America. I believe you said something about immigrants coming from all nations upon them.
Yes, I recall that editorial. It seemed to me that we were putting off the second coming when we talked about preaching the message worldwide.
Well, brethren, whatever reservations we've had about Brother Tchaikovsky, the Lord has used him to bring the Sabbath truth to Europe. However, we have been slow to respond to the Swiss believers. When Brother Riemer came here 4 years ago, we promised him that we would send worker to Switzerland. It has taken us 4 years to get a response.
Yes, we have dragged our feet. Perhaps we would not even have acted now if it had not been for Sister White's vision last year in California in April. She warned us that we were entertaining too little idea. Your house is the world, she said.
She was right. Our faith has been too small, too limited. But in Brother Andrews, I believe we have selected the right man to take the light of truth beyond America.
I just wish he was going up there with a companion. The death of his wife Angeline over 2 years ago was a tragedy for Brother Andrews and his 2 children. I think he will need a wife in Switzerland, and obviously the children will need a mother.
Yes, that will be a great challenge for him to take charge of that work with, whilst looking after Mary and Charles. Though, mind you, Charles is now 17 and he is a valuable and capable young man. I'm not sure about Mary though, I think she's about 12.
Brother Andrew's life has been darkened by many shadows. I think 2 of his children died in their infancy, you know. Yes. Brother Andrews leaves half of his family in the silent grave.
He himself is not a robust man. I hope he will take care of himself and eat healthily. I say, here comes Brother Andrew and Brother Premium today.
Ah, welcome, brothers.
Hello.
Welcome. We have just been talking about Switzerland and our decision to send you out there. Bonjour. Yes.
I guess we can visit for just a moment or two.
Oh.
I believe we have our travel arrangements in hand already.
Travel arrangements already?
Yeah, we can get a passage on the Cunard liner Atlas and sailing from 15th of September, on 15th of September, which is pretty much exactly a month from now.
We will return to Switzerland with Elder Andrews and the 2 children. I will begin giving them French lessons as soon as the voyage begins.
It has been a long time since you've been back home, hasn't it, Brother Riemer?
Oh, indeed, it has. 4 years it's been. I am very, very eager to return.
Brother Andrews, our General Conference Committee has discussed how we may best support you in Switzerland. We know so little about the cost of living there, and the wage you get here may prove to be too little or too much. So what do you think we should do Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, this is fine with me. But certainly this will be a new experiment for our church in many respects, you have to agree.
Indeed it will, Brother Andrews. Actually, you may have to go out to Iowa to see her before you leave.
You mean my mother? Yeah, well, I did have traveling plans to travel out to Iowa. And, but I need to spend a little time with her at some point. Anyway, Brother Volodya, we have to be off. We've got matters to attend to. It was a pleasure.
Yes, we've all got things to do before our meeting this evening. Goodbye, Reverend.
And then, bye.
We hear of the family's adjustments to a new language and culture, of plans to publish a paper, and of an amazing incident in Germany. Mother Andrews rejoices in his son's energy in the work, but fears he's jeopardizing his own health and welfare of his family.
Hello, Wilbur. The man was just coming from Chicago. I see there's a letter from Switzerland for you. It must be from Germany.
Thank you, William, for bringing in my mail. Let's see. Oh, this is from Mary. I'll read it to you. Listen.
Yes, ma'am.
Dear grandmother. Dear grandmother, thank you for your last letter to all of us. But we couldn't read your letter as soon as it arrived. That was because Father had made us a new rule that we can only use English for 1 hour every day, and that's our supper hour. In fact, we even had to sign a pledge that we would do this. You listening? Sometimes it seems harsh, but I guess it's necessary if we're going to learn the language. French is certainly challenging. We walk around the house all day with our French dictionaries. Sometimes we make funny mistakes. Yesterday, I asked Brother how he was feeling, and he looked at the clock and answered, 2:15. He had a good laugh over that. Everything is so different here in Basel. You don't shop for milk and bread here. A farmer brings his cow by in the morning, and you run outside with a pail, and he milks the cow for you right there in the street. Bread is also brought to the house by a local baker. It's crusty and white. Father wishes it were whole wheat, but the baker just shakes his head whenever Father mentions it. They don't seem to know about the health reform here. The work here in Switzerland is slow and difficult. Father can't get permission to conduct public meetings, so he plans to start printing the paper just as soon as his French is good enough. Today, though, Father has just returned from a trip north to Prussia with exciting news. I'll tell you the story. Can you hold this son for me? One day, about 6 weeks ago, a German-speaking man came begging at Mr. Edberger's home. He wanted food and a bed for the night. Mrs. Edberger invited him inside, and after the meal, they began to talk to their visitor about the Adventist truth. It seemed like a good opportunity to witness. When they talked about the Sabbath, the man expressed surprise and said there was a whole company of people keeping the seventh day in his hometown of Elberfeld, Prussia. Mr. Edberger could hardly believe his ears, and the very next day, he told Father about the beggar's visit. Anyway, Father and Mr. Edberger decided to travel up to Elberfeld to find these Sabbath keepers. When they got there, they found a group of about 50 people who thought that they were the only Sabbath keepers in the world. You still listening, son? Good. Father stayed with them for about 5 weeks, preaching to them. Father says, it must be the work of the Holy Spirit who's opening up the way for the Advent message throughout Europe. Isn't that wonderful? Well, there's more that I could tell you, but I'm writing this during my daily English hour, and my time's almost up. Thank you, Grandmother, for your love and prayers. We hope we'll see you again soon. Perhaps you might even be able to come and see us here. Father is too busy to write to you just now, but he and Charles send their love. Our regards to Uncle William and Aunt Martha also. Love, your granddaughter, Mary. Oh, what a beautiful letter.
Yes, it is. It's a sure good thing Mary enjoys writing letters, or else we wouldn't hear from us a lot. So, when are you planning on visiting Switzerland?
Me? Go to Europe? I'd rather save the money and send it to John to help with the mission. I mean, I sure hope they're taking care of themselves, getting enough food to eat. You know, I suspect that John is using every last cent he has to use it for the work, and he's not saving enough for food or clothing.
Hello, son. Did you finish the typesetting?
Yes, Father. How is Mary?
No different as far as I can tell. Just doing this his own special doctor.
Oh, I see.
Have you had something to eat?
No, Father. There's hardly anything in the pantry. Just some potatoes and some white.
I know. Well, we can take what little money we have and go buy some food tomorrow. But you know what? The Lord knows that we spend almost everything to pay for this month.
Oh, that must be the doctor. Bonjour, doctor. Come on in.
Bonjour, myself.
Sick child?
Yeah, she's been running a high fever. She's been unable to keep any food down.
I understand. I will examine her.
Okay, we'll be right here.
So, Father, did you manage to finish translating the article on the image of Daniel 2?
Well, it's nearly completed. But you can see we've had many interruptions to the account of Mary being ill. But you know what? I'll try to finish it tonight. Maybe you can set up the typing tomorrow.
Yeah, that means it'll be ready and printed by Friday.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of work to be honest.
I have bad news for you, Monsieur Andrews.
Yes.
The daughter has consumption.
Consumption? What do you mean?
I'm afraid so. She may live perhaps 1 year. I would advise you to stay away from her bedside as much as possible. I'm sorry, Monsieur. I will send someone with medication as soon as possible. Au revoir.
Charles.
Mary has consumption?
Well, that's what it said. But staying away from her bedside? No, that's something I cannot do. You know, she came willingly to Europe without her mother. And she stood by me loyally. All these 4 difficult years. I'm not gonna let her down.
But Father, remember the invitation you received to go to the General Conference in America? Remember the invitation you received to go to the General Conference in America in just a few weeks? Are you still gonna go?
Well, yes, I will go, but I'm gonna write to the brethren to see if I can take Mary with me. You know, there's a newly refurbished sanitarium there at Battle Creek, under the supervision of Dr. Kellogg. I'm pretty sure Mary's gonna get the best treatment there. But you know, Charles, we must hope and pray.
We will, Father, we will.
Well, brethren, it is good to be home here in Battle Creek after the camp meetings in the West. However, Alan and I would be moving back out west for more meetings. And I'm so sorry I wasn't able to come to the dedication of this new tabernacle here in Battle Creek.
We surely did miss you, Brother White. It was a hard day for Battle Creek. And Brother Andrews preached the most powerful and wonderful sermon.
Yes, it was a sermon from the heart.
That man has endured so much sadness, yet he's thoroughly committed to completing and finishing the work.
The death of Mary last November was a severe blow to him. She had been such a blessing to him since his wife passed away. I believe she was the main source of editorial help with the French paper.
It was a severe blow. I don't think he has actually recovered from it.
But he is determined to return to Switzerland, I hear. His heart is there. He sees the work opening up in so many places in Europe. He tells of believers in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Holland, Germany, France, Italy, even Egypt. Imagine, Egypt.
I sure am afraid for his health. Brother Andrews arrived here last summer looking half dead. I'm not sure that he looks much better now he's preparing to go back.
I can remember when several of us were in that condition about 15 years ago. Half dead men. I think only Brother Bates was the only healthy man in our cause. Then Alan was given the vision about the health message and health reform, and we knew things had to change.
The problem with Brother Andrews is that he's so busy. He forgets to eat.
I sure will tell you something. Brother Andrew, the problem with him is that he doesn't have a wife to look after him.
You're hitting the nail on the head. Alan has urged him strongly to remarry before he moves to Switzerland.
And what was his response to her counsel?
The poor man loved Angeline so much that he still could not bring himself to find another. He could only write and thank Ellen for the advice and for his happiness.
Anyway, that is Brother Andrew's decision, and we must respect it. In less than a month, he sails again for Europe to try and take up his work where he left nearly a year ago. Brethren, may God go with him, and may the work in Europe continue to grow and expand into the Lord comes.
Amen, amen, brother.
Brother Andrews plans to spend a few days in England with the Loughboroughs. I think it will encourage them both. I think John Loughborough was one of the converts in the 50s, you know.
Seems hard. We need help with the typesetting, son. We must own our printing press. We must tell the brethren we need our own printing press. How are we gonna run our publishing house like this? How are we gonna run our publishing house like this? We must tell the brethren, Mary can you help us anymore, son? We must tell the brethren. Why is my life so much in shadow? Brother White, I will. Yes, Brother White, I will. I have to. But my head is numb. Where's God leading me? Oh. Brother Loveborough, it's been such a lovely visit for almost 20 years now. And I remember we had an evangelistic campaign in Rochester. And Angeline was there as well. And Mary. still the birthday. Bro, love, bro. I remember you came up to that meeting as well. I remember you've come up with Bible texts which prove that Sabbath was changed to Sunday. Oh, remember that, bro, love, bro.
Yes, Brother Andrews. I remember that. I remember that night.
Oh, bro, love, bro. I remember. You became Sabbath day, Sunday Adventist. I remember him. Oh, I must preach. I must start preaching again like that again. It's so hard. For my spiritual son. I remember you called me your spiritual father. How you got me with the typesetting, son? You need some extra help? Oh, the printing press, publishing. We must tell them, we must write to the brethren.
You tell them, Father.
I'll tell them. We'll both tell them.
Brother Andrews, they say you have the whole Bible memorized.
Oh, the whole Bible. The whole Bible? No, not quite right. No. The New Testament, yes, but not the whole Bible, no. If you destroyed it, I can rewrite it again, word for word, the New Testament, but no, not the Old Testament, no. No, I don't think so, no. Not the Old Testament.
That's marvelous, Brother Andrews.
You didn't bring Mary home with you, Father.
Andrews, you must keep your hand firmly in God's hand.
My hand is numb. I'm holding on to God with a numb hand. Must preach again like that. I have to start preaching again like this and write the brethren. We need the printing press. We need the publishing house. I must start preaching again like that. And you know, I have to start working again like that. When it's day, because when the night comes, no man can work at night.
Excuse me, sir. This is Basil.
Basil.
Leaving the train here, sir.
Yes, sir. Basil.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me carry you back, sir. This way. This way.
Okay, thanks. Oh.
I'm reading from the Ellen White Estate website. You go on whiteestate.org. There's an entry that says, that talks about John and Andrews. He was born in the year 1829 and died in the year 1883. This is what the biography says. John Nevin Andrews is most notably known in the Seventh-day Adventist Church as our first missionary overseas. J.N. Andrews was born July 22, 1829, in Poland, Maine. He quit school at the age of 11. Can I ask, where is Becky?
Becky.
Can I ask Becky to stand? If Becky can come and stand here. So, at the age of 11, Becky is 11. So, at age 11, he quit school and was largely self-taught. It is reported that he was fluent in 7 languages and could recite the New Testament by memory. Now, we're not just talking about a few verses of pattern Sabbath. We're talking about all the books from Matthew to Revelation. Could recite it from memory. His uncle Charles, a member of the US Congress, offered to pay for his training as a lawyer so he could follow a political career. However, in 1845, at age 15, what is still? He's gone to the back. Here is almost 15. Who else is 15? How old is he? Wait, that is shy. Okay, can you just stand where he is? Can I just stand where you are? So when Andrews was at the age of 15, and if we can see, he accepted the Sabbath from a tract written by T.M. Preble. It changed the direction of his life. So at age 11, he quit school. At 15, he accepts the Sabbath. Now, how old do we want our children to be before they accept the Lord? How much does it take for them to be ministers? I'm going to ask Dasha to stand now. Dasha, how old are you? 16. So in a few weeks, in a few months, you'll be 17. We know that Ellen White was just a bit older than Dasha when she began her public ministry. God desires to do a lot with our young people. Sometimes this appeals to the young people. We feel like we have to wait until we've started making money, until our careers are set, until we're driving nice cars and we have the beautiful homes and the beautiful wives and the beautiful children before we fully give ourselves to the Lord. It is common nowadays, you go to university, you think, okay, when I complete university, I'm going to spend a year traveling, get to know the world, and then I might just settle down into church and be serious about it. God is calling for people like John Andrews. He's calling for people like Ellen White. People who give themselves to the Lord at a tender age. We have seen that Andrews died in the year 1883, and as Andrea was reading, he was at the age of 54. I'll ask Tony to stand. So Tony gave a testimony earlier, and he said he reached the age of 50 in May, a few months ago, and then he decided to have his health checked. So Brother Andrews was only a bit older than Brother Tony when he died. Think how much he has given for the Lord. Tony has a 2-year-old son. I won't say his wife's age, she will tell me. But Brother Andrews, at this point, had lost his wife, or he was soon, in another 2 years, I suppose, he would lose his daughter. He had already spent 4 years in Switzerland as a missionary, giving his life for the Lord. Now, for those who are older than 20, perhaps we need to think about that. For those who are still to approach that age, one of them, it's also something to think about. Thank you, Tony. Now, in the book Gospel Workers, I'm going to read an interesting statement, a series of statements. On page 151, paragraph 2, we are told, in this age of moral darkness, it will take something more than dry theory to move souls. Now, the youth could have chosen to come and present a sermon and say, okay, we have between 11:30 and possibly 1 o'clock to come and present something. They could have come and spoken about John Andrews and would have said, okay, that's an interesting story. But there's something powerful in the way they've presented the message to us this morning, isn't there? It says, in this age of moral darkness, to take more than dry theory to move souls. Ministers, and this is talking about all of us in our ministry, preaching to others, must have a living connection with God. They must preach as if they believe what they say. When we see the life of Andrews illustrated this way, the truth comes to life, and we are challenged. On the preceding page of Gospel Workers, that's page 150, the last paragraph 3, we read the following statement. It says, God calls for men who, like Nathan the prophet, Elijah, and John. She's talking about John the Baptist, but I'm going to talk about another John, John Andrews. Men who will bear his message with fearlessness, regardless of consequences, who will speak the truth, though to do this calls for the sacrifice of all they have. What better example than we have seen today? Now, this is not just something for us to feel good about and maybe to cry and then to forget when we go home. God is calling each of us to make that sacrifice for Him. To realize that all we have, all we are, must be for His glory.
Sure.
It is the prayer and the hope of the youth that this may be our aim. If this is your desire, can I ask you to stand? And we're going to invite Pastor to pray for those who stand.